Today's video is going to be my second phase of my modified Crosman 1322, what I call a super drifter. Here's the drifter pistol part here. It looks sharp and it is very accurate and performs fairly well. This one looks sharp in a different way with the metal breech. What you can't see is the flat top piston and valve modification that I put, which has almost doubled the kinetic energy of it. A lot of parts that I hope will increase the speed significantly. These are the parts in this version that I'm going to add, primarily around this aftermarket kit here, which is a flat top piston and valve cylinder. It will be a more efficient use of air into the valve. I'm going to add more rigid spring for the hammer. It's supposed to give you a little extra time for the air to escape the valve. Also got an aluminum breech, and this will also increase your velocity probably about 10 feet per second, or it did on my Crosman 362. That will allow me to put a scope on it later as well. And lastly, I'm going to put a brass bolt with an extended probe. This is supposed to push the pellet a little bit further forward so that more air gets behind it. But the first thing I'm going to do, this isn't really going to help performance, but it's going to help me to work on it, is add this to replace the rivet here. And this requires a punch to get out and is actually kind of difficult to get back in. This will be a lot easier to work with. And here's the original rivet. It still doesn't go in. You could use this one here and it slides right in. I got it lined up. Once I did that, it was fairly easy. For specific guidance on how to install the flat top piston custom kit, I refer you to Cluey Amateurs, and he was installing a British custom kit for 1377, but the steps are almost exactly the same. Okay, I've got this stripped down about as much as you can do it. Here is the factory installed piston and valve. And here's the new flat top piston and valve. This cup that goes to about there in their relative positions. So I'm getting ready to install this. We're taking a look at the inside of the cylinder. You see it's nice and shiny, no scratches. Should be good to go there. After I installed the flat top piston and the flat top valve, I am going to do a demonstration here. I'm going to pump it 5 times. 4, 5. It says pump it to 14, but we'll go with 5. All right, let's see what happens here. So that's pretty good. Next up is to put this all back together. Got the pistol grip on. You got to remember when you do that, you have to do it upside down and put this in first, because there's a little spring that falls out. And I was able to avoid that. So let's do another tip. Let's pump it 5 times again. All right. Let's see if it can have any impact on this bag here. Ready? Yeah, I think we're good to go. Now that I have the valve and the piston in and the grip on, I've also got the new spring in. The hammer's installed. This part is done. I'm going to put it back together as I did in Super Drifter Phase 1. To see how I'm going to do this, the steel breech on my Crosman 362, it'll be the same procedure. I've got it put together. 17 pumps. Yeah, I've only got probably one more chance here. I'm losing light. Last shot out of about 30 today doing these speed tests. .641. Okay, that concludes Crosman hollow point. That's how many shots I took. I'll explain all this later. Here's the numbers, and they were pretty impressive. Before I go into much more detail, let me show you the raw figures, and I'll explain a few things. Here's the raw figures. Initially, I went with 17 pumps because that's what they say is optimal. I took 5 readings, then I switched over to 21 pumps. So then I went to 25 pumps, and even though you get really good figures, there was still air in the valve cylinder. Here, I'll give you an example. It was 23 pumps. Let's see if there's left over after 23. Yeah, there was still air after 23. We still increased about the same for 4 pumps. Hollow point on one day, I came back the next day and just decided to go with 21 pumps since that seemed to be the optimal level. You can see the hollow point had with 17 pumps, still had a good speed of 643, and that had 13.1 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. At 21 pumps, we went up to 671 feet per second average, 14.3 foot-pounds. And that's actually pretty good, especially when you compare that with my Crosman 362. It had an average speed of 673.6 and 14.4. So it's more in line with my 100-year edition Crosman 360. And if you compare it with my Drifter, it has an average speed of 671 to 522, kinetic energy of 8.65 to 14.3. So didn't quite double it, but the Super Drifter is significantly faster than the Drifter. Crosman Red Flight at 21 pumps, and it came up with an average speed of 616 with 14.1. So that it, with a couple extra pumps, I'm pretty sure it got up to 15. I did try 23. You'll see that later. H&N Excite hammer, 14.1 foot-pounds, and if you notice here, these speeds are pretty close together. So if I were shooting this one, you get about as much power as the hollow point. Its speeds tend to be a little closer together, so I would use that one. I am pretty pleased with the results. Okay, this is with 21 pumps with the Red Flight. See what happens here with the Coleman propane can. Looking through this little peephole. I don't know if it penetrated or not. The angle was off. It didn't get the actual entry. It only got a blur. Pretty clean. Thus, I'm done with phase 2. Phase 3 will be putting stock on and putting a scope on. And then we'll see how accurate this is. And we will be done. Well, there may be a phase 4. I may end up getting a suppressor from Buck Rail, and that would be super cool then. You can pour lots of money in these 1322s. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please press the like button and subscribe. I would appreciate it. It's a beautiful fall day here, even though it's December here in Texas. So I hope I caught that pretty blue sky we have.